saying that it's just spirituality kind of eliminates that whole part that is so important to you. And it's also like valuable to me, but you've been feeling it really strongly, which is culture, community, the people that we're with, and our identity, our group, the connectedness we feel to other people, and the like our empathy and our collective like grief when there's like horrible things happening. That is also so transpersonal, and it's not woo woo spirit like, but they're all part of the same thing. And I think that is to me such a unfortunate minimization of the idea of transpersonal when it's just about like non-ordinary states of consciousness. It's like, no, what about the deep resonance we feel with people that are from like that have the same ethnic background as us, or the same cultural background, or like from the same location, or just social locations, all of these things. Confirmation chills and
whole body chills. Yes, thank you so much for saying that.
The Always Be podcast. Welcome. Hey, Avery.
Hey, Brenna. Okay. First ever Always Be podcast episode.
For real. It's not like this is our second time recording it.
No, first ever published to the world.
First ever.
So, who are you?
Hi, everyone. I feel strange introducing myself when it's just the two of us, but I understand this will be shared. So my name is Brenna. I am a transpersonal counselor, energy worker, healer, intuitive individual who is, and I'm dialing in from Big Island of Hawaii at the moment.
What's your frequency? What's your mood? What's your vibe?
Oh, what is my mood and what is my vibe? My vibe is there are people in my space today, which is great. And I say, which is great. There are people in my space today. And I am, so I am feeling a little crowded. And so that's my personal vibe and my frequency for today.
Okay.
And all that comes with that, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Avery. I am in Los Angeles, California. Hey. What is my frequency? What's my vibe? Ready.
Nice.
Yeah, my vibe is just ready to receive, just patiently waiting, not actually very impatiently waiting, and ready to receive the assignment from Source and God.
Were we talking about assignments yesterday? Because I literally had that word come up for me too, and I'm just trying to remember if that was because of you.
We were talking about it in our consultation group.
Okay, then I definitely had assignment come up for me literally yesterday. Maybe it's just been around in the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Yes, it is. We're waiting for our assignments.
I am definitely just here for assignments. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So, welcome to the Always Be podcast, where we talk about everything transpersonal.
Transpersonal. And if you're confused by the word transpersonal, great news is that today we are going to be talking about what transpersonal is. So just stick around a little while longer and your questions will all be answered.
Yes. So this podcast will be a collaborative seeking of answers to questions related to mental health.
Yeah.
Between
With
Brenna
our
and I.
From our transpersonal perspective. I
Mm-hmm.
also said that. I said I was a transpersonal counselor, but then also Avery didn't mention that she's also a transpersonal counselor. That's why we're here together.
I am also a transpersonal counselor. Yep. We just
Yeah. Yeah.
transpersonal counsel all the time.
We're just still transpersonal in the transpersonal.
Yes. So the first thing I think about transpersonal everything, psychology, counseling, it's difficult to pin down. It's difficult
Yeah.
to explain concisely and clearly because its nature is actually to be the opposite of that.
Wait, no, I didn't understand what that meant. What you meant. Its nature is to be the
Let me say it
opposite.
again.
Oh,
To
like transpersonal is
understand,
by definition inexplicable.
it is just beyond. It's beyond
Mm,
a simple explanation and a simple
yeah.
definition and a simple understanding because it in itself, the nature of what transpersonal counseling and psychology is to push outside of all of the boxes and the boundaries and go
Yeah.
further than that and be out and
Yeah.
be more than that.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to pin down and to name.
Yeah. I think that that is it's funny that you're even saying that because for some reason it never actually clicked for me in my brain. That is why it's been so challenging for us to describe essentially what we do because it happens outside of the realm of our intellectual explanations where we really just have metaphor at a certain point, and this is where we get into this realm of spiritual where we don't have the proper words or mental constructs and it's all just metaphor. And so but it's also beautiful creative, it's beautiful and creative out there in this these other dimensional spaces. So
Yeah.
that being said, our goal for today is there we have been having a challenge expressing because there is a need to express what we do to people. People are curious, they want to know. We really love the word transpersonal. I think it fits. So instead of trying to fit our vibe into a box that like is here, the word transpersonal really does describe it. There's just a lot of people who don't know what transpersonal means. So that's what this first episode is attempting to do to maybe we can set some foundations for describing. So essentially the question we're trying to answer collaboratively today is what is transpersonal psychology, and then kind of with that how does that show up as transpersonal counseling. Does that sound, did I
Yeah.
summarize the questions properly?
That sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
Should I start with that brief definition?
Yeah, we thought that we would just
This
start with like a couple short ones and then maybe expand.
Yes. So this says transpersonal psychology focuses on the mind-body connection, blending traditional concepts like behaviorism and humanism with philosophy, mindfulness, and mysticism. Let that sink
Hmm. So, yeah, taking traditional psychological concepts like behaviorism and humanism and blending it with mysticism, mindfulness, spirituality.
in.
Yeah, I find when I summarize it, it's like that feels, I feel like I say a lot of times essentially that
Yeah.
traditional psychology plus spirituality, where they overlap in the Venn diagram, is transpersonal psychology.
Yeah. You had a breakdown of the word transpersonal that I really liked. Do you want to share that?
The one from our website or just the
Yeah.
one that kind of comes from my brain? Okay. Because, yeah, trans means beyond. And then personal essentially means the self. So beyond the self would be the way of describing what we are working on. And so that's like the short definition. But then I think the idea of the quote unquote self is actually a very dynamic definition, which is why I think transpersonal psychology covers a lot of bases. Should I go into this now? Because it was, yes,
I don't know what it
or do
is,
we leave
but
it
I
there
want to
for now?
say yes.
But just the different levels of self.
Yes, go into it. Go into it.
Yeah. So there's this, Ken Wilber wrote this really great paper, or it's part of a book he wrote, where he breaks down the levels of self. And he talks about that at like at the, you know, I don't know if it's the lowest level, but there's the ego, which is the part of self that we identify with, and there's the shadow. So the ego and the shadow are the two parts. And the ego is like, oh, this is who I am. And the shadow is like, oh, those are all those parts of myself that I don't want to look at. And when you, and like traditional psychoanalytic psychology seeks to kind of like just look at the shadow to have one fully formed like idea of self. And then the second phase is like when your ego and your shadow are together in your mind, it's like combining your mind with your body. And a lot of like somatic and humanistic psychology and Gestalt seeks to unify the mind and the body. There's a lot of cool work being done about how our body holds our traumas and we can move them somatically. And so that is essentially like that second layer of like quote unquote self. The limited self is just in the mind, and the totality of self is the whole organism, your mind and your body together. And then the next level is your total organism, and then like the your environment, your community, the collective that's around you. And when you expand beyond yourself to have your definition of self include your physical body and your whole environment, your whole community, that's what like Ken Wilber will call like the unity consciousness, but like Jung called it collective consciousness. Like, and essentially in the past, this whole idea of like we're all one, like we're all connected, this totality of organisms hasn't really been confronted as much in psychology. It's been a lot of individualization. And so that is essentially transpersonal psychologists or transpersonal counselors or therapists or whatever, if you're doing transpersonal work, I think it transcends and includes all of those dimensions. So you can work on illuminating the shadow, then working with the body, and then looking at the totality of our connection to everything. And it's all this one process of like extending beyond the self. So to me, transpersonal just transcends and includes everything that came before it.
That was really well described. Beautiful description. So well put. And I love the way that you described sort of the evolution of transpersonal psychology because it does inherently have a foundation of understanding the individual and the self and the ego and the relationship to self, which is very like western psychology. It's like it's about your story, your childhood, your traumas, your experiences, your story, the stories you tell yourself, your limiting beliefs, whatever. And the element of transpersonal psychology is to work with that
Should we have just, yeah, I mean, we can have just like one moment of acknowledgement, and I will just, in this present moment, acknowledge there were technical challenges. So Brenna's just going to do a little energy work to just unhook myself from any of the people that are around and any obligations, and to just
Better.
Yeah.
Last night, I drew the King of Cups card and was very resonant with it. I was like reading the description. It's like he's in full balance of his intellect and his emotion, and he is just like in his seat of power and just calm and collected. And I was like, fuck yeah, I am. That is how I feel. And that is how I am being embodied right now. It felt really, really validating. Like I was like, yes.
Wow. I'm so jealous. I feel like if I pulled a card right now, it would
And
literally be like,
and there's this little crab that comes out of the water that's like at the base of his throne, and it represents the Cancer. My dad is a Cancer, and I just had this like really positive experience of just like this little crab. It's like he can be there, he can be in the scene, but he's at the
cool.
bottom and he's in the corner and he's small, and it's just like you're here, but it's all good. Like you're not like
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge crab like taking over my
Yeah.
head. Like you're just like in your little corner and I can kick you into the water if I need, but you're fine for now.
Yes.
Felt
I
really
like love that for
awesome.
you. I'm just going to like
Yeah.
give myself a card too at this moment. Okay. I got the 10 of Cups. Harmony, it says. How beautiful.
We love the 10 of Cups.
Harmony is exactly what I need right now. That reminds me, we should call Harmony.
I know. Oh my God. And I have this
Let's
little
try this.
stone that I've had for years that says harmony on it. And I realized the reason that I have it is because of my relationship with her. Isn't that so funny? I
Oh
sent
my
her a picture of it
God.
one
That
day.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back on the front. And you were in the middle of saying some beautiful, lovely things about transpersonal, and I just ruined it.
Yes. Whoa. You didn't ruin it. Just things happened. Just some things happened in between. So I was saying, I remember what I was saying, that transpersonal psychology and counseling is the next step. It's taking the integration of modern therapy, talk therapy, and then it's pushing it past. If you have yourself and you have your identity, what is that in the collective? What is that to your higher potential, to your higher purpose, to your higher power? And that energy space is where we are all connected, like collective consciousness. Or you mentioned unity consciousness. So
Yeah.
it's not just staying in the individualized experience of self, but it is what it's extending beyond that, so that healing also brings us back to what we are inherently meant to be, which is a part of community.
As you were talking, I was realizing like you and I are essentially falling into these different dimensions of extending beyond the self, because have been talking a lot about community and like and the collective as in other human beings, and I've been really in this vein of like our spiritual connectedness, like our energetic dimensional
Mhm.
connectedness to our different levels, our past and our present selves and our future selves and our karmic bonds and our intergenerational things. And I really I love the idea of the word transpersonal because it covers both, and they're both so
Yeah.
important. Yeah, because I think that saying that it's just spirituality kind of eliminates that whole part that is so important to you, and it's also like valuable to me, but you've been feeling it really strongly, which is
Mhm.
culture, community, the people that we're with, and our identity, our group, the connectedness we feel to other people, and the empath, like our empathy and our collective like
Mhm.
grief, when there's like horrible things happening. That is
Mhm.
also so transpersonal, and it's not woo woo spirit like, but
Yeah.
they're all part of the same thing. And I think that is such
Yeah.
a, to me, such a unfortunate um minimization of the idea of transpersonal, when it's just about like non-ordinary states of consciousness. It's like, no, what about the
Mhm.
deep resonance we feel with people that are from like that have the same ethnic background as us, or the same cultural background, or like the same, from the same location, or just social locations, all of these things. Confirmation chills. And so
Whole
it's
body
like
chills. Ah, yes. Thank you so much for saying
yeah.
that. Ah, yes. Let's just like take this natural like shift into talking about our lenses, our two different lenses
Oh,
as transpersonal counselors, which you just kind of gave a
we are
little
so
summary or
aligned today.
introduction into. It's good.
Thank you, King of
Today's a good
Cups.
day. Yes, King of Cups, bringing it
Thank you,
home.
King of Cups. Yeah, you go
I mean,
first.
I did. I showed you the other cards that I pulled. Right?
I think you sent me a picture. Oh, yeah, you
It
did,
was
because one
crazy.
of them was
It
also
was
the
High
Empress, and I was
Priestess,
like, or
Justice,
High
and Star.
Priestess.
Like, yeah, High Priestess upside down, Justice and Star, and I like did a whole fucking reading on that and was like, that's why I'm ready. That's why I'm ready.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
fully in my power and so ready.
Ooh!
Okay, segue. So my lens, which I'm starting to realize it's really coming, it's getting activated and it's coming back. It's like I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. A lot of my younger years was really like entrenched in activism and being in the nonprofit world and being a part of community work and doing both, like being a witness to communities that I was not a part of to learn and understand, and then also being uh, an educator too. So like being educated and being an educator. So because of everything that's happening with Palestine right now, this genocide that's actively taking place, there's so much getting brought back up in me about what my place is as a activist or an ally or a teacher in social justice and what role that plays in my transpersonal counseling. And so, like you kind of named, it's really about working with the individual through a healing experience, including all elements of what their identity is, their social, emotional location, um, their, like you saying, their generational history, their what they're born into, what roles they're born with, um, and doing also like group facilitation of processing things like in community. That felt really big for me yesterday. Like I realized I do want to be doing community work, healing in community, like active healing through movement, through play, through art, through expression. But then I always feel that the missing piece is there's not a group process at the end of a lot of these things. And we need to bear witness to one another's healing and learn from each other through sharing what your emotional experience was when you danced, when you cooked a meal together, when you
Mm,
played, I don't know, frisbee in the park or whatever. So it's
yeah.
including all of these experiences that we have as people, with our interests, with our passions, with our hobbies, which with anything that's kind of bringing us out of just our individualized work state, and bringing that to the counseling and the healing relationship. So it's like including all. It's including all, but it's including all of what's on this plane, you know?
Yeah.
Where I feel
Yeah.
like yours is like, go, please share.
Wait, so I just launch into what then I'm bringing in. Yeah, so yours is sort of your almost your body's identities.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
what this physical body holds. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of. And I think that like I've been thinking about how our souls also hold identity and connections.
Mm-hmm.
So like our
Mm-hmm.
bodies entanglements are with our parents, our family members, our community, our social location, all of these physical locations, our ethnicity, our race, et cetera, and the intergenerational things that pass down. Versus
Mm-hmm.
our soul is connected to things karmically. So what's been coming up for me is like entanglements. I call them entanglements, but it's essentially like understanding that what's happening to us in this plane is not actually only happening to us on this plane. And we have connections to like our karmic past, our soul's past. We have like a mission, like a whole spiritual identity, and that there are things happening to us energetically that aren't happening in the physical world, as in, someone who we might be not speaking to can very much still be energetically tied to us and anchored to us and in our physical space and causing us distress. And for me, that's what just has
Mm-hmm.
always got me going is these really, yeah. And I done a lot of family constellations. That's like really sweet work, but then just energetic work in general. So thinking about what our souls are attached to or connected to, or what's impacting us on a energetic spiritual level, that
Mm-hmm.
is and often what I find is like when we're confused about what's happening in the real world, I'm like, I don't understand why I'm feeling so sad. It's a lot of times something happening like in another quote unquote dimension. And I can talk forever about what I think dimensions are. I think like every time we go to the past in our memory, we time travel and we go into another dimension. So it's a lot easier to like shift dimensions than we. And I could talk about that forever, but I think it's like that's what just really gets me going, and that seems to be what I'm best at identifying for people is energetic and spiritual entanglements, attachments, blocks, rigidity, karmic
Yeah.
debts, contracts to other beings, past, present, future. It's all happening right now. And so I think I'm just ready to come out of the closet as a crazy, not as crazy. No, just as like there's so much more happening than we think there is. And when we're just on this level of like, oh, this is your symptom, it's like,
Mm.
yeah. So just these
You're ready to come out of the closet as what?
no, just as like I think it's like I'm just gonna stop pretending that it's not spirit.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So like an
That's
intuitive energy
yeah,
counselor, healer.
healer. Yeah, like I don't know, the yeah. Yeah, I'm very hesitant to use certain ways of describing the path that I think are being thrown around too cavalierly, but essentially
Mm.
working in a, you know, just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned family constellations, and I wonder if you could give just like a brief description or rundown of what that is, because I think a lot of people aren't familiar.
Oh yeah. Okay. Family constellations is like a beautiful group modality where essentially there's like a focus person who is essentially like the quote unquote client. So there's the facilitator, then there's the focus person, and the other members of the group stand in as representatives of members of the family of that focus person. And it's not always family, but just for this description, I'm just going to talk about the family. So the people in the group would stand in as the mother, the father, the person themselves, grandparents, great grandparents, in order to identify some family dynamic that needs to get worked through. That is energetically affecting the focus person. And it's a really cool intuitive work because actually the people who are representing are essentially channeling, but basically just letting their own intuitive wisdom guide their portrayal. And the idea behind the whole practice is it's sort of like a group intuitive energy process where the this person's internal mental state gets represented, and it's always really magical actually. So it's hard to describe, but essentially what happens is when you're chosen to represent someone, without fail the focus person will be like, I didn't tell you that, but you sounded exactly like my sister or exactly like my dad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So to me this is just that
Mm-hmm.
collective unconscious, like collective consciousness thing where we can actually access information um, through our bodies when we get our own kind of thinking out of the way. So it ends up
Yeah.
being really just a cool way of processing energetic entanglements.
Mm-hmm.
It's like group work. Highly
Yeah.
encourage it for anyone who is interested in doing a family constellation. Love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
The one thing I do want to
I,
say is that spirituality can be like a really difficult. It's just, spirituality is a lot of different things right now. Some people might immediately associate that with religion, organized religion, or
yeah.
some dogma that was enforced upon them. Some might immediately associate spirituality with people who are just taking and borrowing ideas from wisdom traditions and using them for capitalism. Like there's kind of also some icky stuff going on with
Yeah.
spirituality, and
Yeah.
I think it can be tough to have this lens and this education in transpersonal counseling where we are always trying to honor like the foundation of where these wisdom traditions and belief systems have come from, and tune into the fact that like it's inherently part of just being a human, but there is a
Yeah.
cultural element to it because there has been a taking and a
Yeah.
colonizing and a weaponizing, and the modern spirituality like movement can be a little cringe. It can be a little cringe for me sometimes. I'll speak from my experience that I am a white
Yeah.
person who was educated at this private Buddhist psychology college, and I love everything that that gave me. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's just a part of my identity that I navigate, is like how to
Yeah.
gracefully be doing this work and honoring where a lot of these ideas and ideologies have come from, and not just like taking it without truly learning. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And it just reminds me basically like it makes me want to say, if we are closing this first episode, that we have a lot of plans about things that we want to expand throughout this podcast. And one of the things that we are we are planning to do an episode on is colonization and appropriation in the world of transpersonal, and also those concepts viewed transpersonally. I think it's really, really important. And absolutely, like, so I don't know exactly. I think you did a really good job of just honoring that component. And it reminded me of, like, I think that's happening a lot with psychedelics. We were just saying that we're not going to really mention that. That's going to get its own episode probably, because of all the dynamics, and that work does fall under transpersonal more so probably than earlier other kinds of psychology. So yeah, I think I have a lot of feelings, but I think you just you named all the things that needed to be named, and we can expand. The thing that I was going to say though is that, like, yeah, all I felt was like, what's been happening for me is if people are like, what do you do? I'll be like, oh, I'm a counselor. And then they'll be like, oh, what kind of counseling? And I'll be like, transpersonal counseling. And then people will be like, what? And like, put simply for everyone, I think, yes, saying like it's kind of where spirituality and psychology meet is sort of simple enough for people to grasp, but it's just, yeah, it's not the total. It just doesn't cover all the bases. But in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
we're still doing counseling.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just,
It's just like we don't stop there. We just don't stop there.
yes, we don't stop there. Well, I mean, yeah, we have a lot
You
to say
know?
about the mental health system in terms of
Yeah,
just wanting
that'll be
people to be
another
functional.
episode too.
Just wanting people to be functional enough to participate in capitalism. Can you work?
Yeah.
Then you're healthy. Are you not able to work? Then you're a problem.
Yeah. Icky.
More episodes to come. We have much to say about mental health and healing, what transpersonal means. But I feel like we did a really good job this episode.
Yeah, I think it was good.
And
Nailed
I've been
it.
calmed by Avery's King of Cups presence at the moment.
I'm so glad because you know what? I was calmed
Honestly.
by that. I was calmed by that identification and was just like, I have no arguments here. This is right.
Yeah, I feel
I love
peace.
you and I love doing this work with you and having these.
I love you too. I honestly am glad. I feel so much more at peace with a shorter episode. We should probably try to keep it around this
Yeah.
length. I think
Yeah, I
it's
think it's good.
healthier for us. Avery and I are both working on brevity in our lives.
You know, there's a lot I'm working on actually. What are you working on?
What am I working on?
Brevity?
I'm working brevity and self-worth, like, in a lot of different dynamics. Just self-worth has been up for me for a couple months now. That one's always big. But in terms of, like,
Wow.
getting paid, putting myself out there, believing that I have value. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
I feel like resistance to stepping into leadership has been
That has
just
kind of been your
there for a
MO,
minute.
though.
That's been there for a minute. That's what I'm working with. Yeah.
We're all just waiting for you to get your shit together, Avery.
You know what? Clay sent me a video yesterday and he was like, I just feel like I really need to be encouraging and supporting you right now because you're meant to do these like great things. And I was like, couldn't come at a better time, Clay. And you were like, I've been really wanting to be in community. I want to be with my people. And yesterday, Brenna was like, maybe you need to invite them together into the space. Like,
I was like, Avery, I think everyone is just waiting for you.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That's the assignment.
For real.
I said I was
And
ready.
I think the deal is like, though, and to make this like universal, it's you, and it's also what's happening on what's the vibe of the planet right now. People are like,
Yeah.
need to get into gear. I want to be on my assignment. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And if you are on your assignment, it's coming as like a lot of motivation to keep working. But if you're not on a trajectory that your soul wants you to be on, it's coming in as barriers and discomfort and annoyance and get me out of this
Mm,
job. And if you're feeling get me out of this job, you
mm.
should probably leave that job. Your soul wants you
Get
to get back
out.
to the assignment that you need to be on. And I understand that it's easier
Yeah,
said than done, but ultimately
ultimately not. I actually think staying in suffering
ultimately
is always
not.
much harder than leaving and doing the thing you're meant to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
pain that comes from being on the path is tolerable pain.
Mhm. It's not even that bad. It's really just
It's not even that
discomfort.
bad. It's just discomfort.
Yeah, when you're in pain and you're in suffering in, let's say, like a soul's purpose way, it hurts when you're not doing the thing you're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
I saw this thing that was like, if you're in a toxic work environment, it's going to change you much faster than you're going to change it. So leave.
Oh.
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
Okay,
I was like,
we're gonna bring that back for our Get Out of the Mental Health System podcast episode.
okay,
And I
perfect.
feel like
Perfect.
I feel like we have to wrap it up, but also, yeah, just
Yeah,
so that we feel like we give
this
a
is
good
a good end.
conclusion. This was
Mhm.
great. Well done,
This was
Avery.
great.
I can really I'm getting a
Well
sense of
done,
your power and
Brenna.
I'm so proud of you. Yes.
Wow. Thank you for saying that. I agree. I'm proud of you too. Did you
Thank you
like
for
that
saying
one?
that. I agree. Yeah.
I
I'm so proud
agree.
of you for saying thank you for saying that. I agree. Okay.
I know. I know. I thought you'd get a kick out of
Everything
that.
about this episode is perfection. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I love you. This is a great end. And to our listeners, we will be
To our
back
listeners.
soon and
Yes.
can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Amen. All right. Peace. The vision of Always Be Collective is of an inclusive, innovative, and intuitive healing practice that uses wisdom from the mind, body, heart, and spirit. We strive to establish a community of mental health practitioners who share a common goal to expand beyond the limitations of the current mental health care system. We provide services aimed towards individual and collective healing. You can visit us at alwaysbecollective.com.